Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development within the Biomedical Research, Education, and Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. My name is Kate Stewart, and I'm here today with A.J. Robison. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Tell me about your time here at Vanderbilt. What did you do?
Well, I came here in 1999 as an IGP student, and I immediately joined the lab of Roger Colburn. I didn't do any other rotations. I did my first rotation in his lab and kind of fell in love with the science, and worked in his lab for 5 years on postsynaptic structural proteins that are involved in the anchoring of kinases and phosphatases at the synapse for signaling. I kind of got a real strong background in biochemistry, but I didn't have much background in animal models and physiology of cells. And so to pursue that, then I went on to postdocs that would train me in those areas.
Yeah, so tell me about your time after Vanderbilt.
So I went on to initially do a postdoc with, well, I actually stayed here for a year and postdoced with Danny Winder here at Vanderbilt, which was a great time, and I learned a bit of electrophysiology from Danny. And then went to apply those skills in Tom Sudhoff's lab at UT Southwestern. I was there for about a year when Tom announced he was moving his lab to Stanford, and my wife and I had bought a house and had a baby on the way, and she was working for Eric Nestler there at UT Southwestern. So rather than move to Stanford, we stayed there at UT Southwestern, and I joined Eric Nestler's lab. And after about a month, Eric said, "We're moving the lab to New York City." So we moved, baby and all, to the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and we were there in New York for 4 years as postdocs with Eric, where I learned a lot of great animal behavior and slice physiology and some really powerful genetics techniques. And those were the techniques that I used to put together my own research program when I started my lab at Michigan State University.
Okay, so tell me about that. Tell me about your time, what you're doing now.
So I'm an assistant professor of physiology and neuroscience at Michigan State, and my lab focuses on a part of the brain called the hippocampus, and we care about changes in gene expression in the hippocampus that underlie psychiatric disease. And what's kind of unique about our research program is that we've developed tools that allow us to edit genes. We use CRISPR-Cas technology in collaboration with our good friend Rachel Nevy at MIT. And these tools allow us to edit genes in specific neural circuits in cells that project just from the hippocampus to the nucleus accumbens, or just from the hippocampus to the amygdala. And in editing genes in a specific circuit, we achieve different specific behavioral effects that give us insight into the genetic and gene expression underpinnings of different aspects of disease. Our current major focus is on depression and the anxiety aspects of depression versus the social withdrawal and anhedonia, or lack of pleasure, aspects of depression. And we're beginning to uncover the gene expression changes in specific circuits that underlie one versus the other of these specific pathophysiologies of depression.
Very cool. So tell me, how much of your percentage of research, teaching, mentoring are you doing in your role, in your faculty role?
So I do teach a bit. So I have a full course every year, and then maybe spot lecture a little more during the rest of the academic year. But for the most part, about 80% of my effort is on research, and that's where my real focus is. I have 5 graduate students and a postdoc in my lab, so I do quite a bit of mentoring. We also have an army of undergraduates. Nice thing about Michigan State is we have 45,000 of them. So there are a bunch of undergrads in my lab who work as well. So I have quite a big team for someone at my stage, I feel like. So a lot of my time is spent in management and in writing grants to support this huge team, and then managing their projects and their progress.
So what's your favorite part about all of this? Like, what would you want to do every day if you got to do it?
Mostly it's the interaction with the kids in my lab. I have 5 wonderful graduate students and a super postdoc who has really driven my research program a lot. And interacting with them, when the thing that was coolest early on in my time at Michigan State was when I had an idea about an experiment that I was excited about, and I told my postdoc the idea, and then 4 or 5 days later he walked into my office with a graph and said, "Here it is." That was the first time that ever happened to me. I always had to do it with my own hands, and now I just said it out loud and into the ether, and the next day or a few days later, there it was, and it was real. And that was a really cool experience. My favorite thing is when things like that happen, or even better, when he has an idea, tells me about it, and I'm excited, and then he goes and does it. Or one of my graduate students, I have one that's about to graduate, Paul, and she's going to go join Randy Blakely's lab as a postdoc. She's about to graduate, and when she comes to my office and says, "Hey, you told me to do this experiment, and I tried it, and it didn't work that way, but then I thought I should do this, and it worked this way," that's the best feeling when I see them do something like that.
Awesome. So, faculty role, how is this a good fit for you personally, like with your skill set? How did you know this was a good fit for you?
I always wanted to be in academia. I like the academic freedom and the atmosphere of academia. No one really tells me what to work on. Of course, I have to do things that are fundable and that are impactful in science, and so that guides my research program to a large degree also. But in general, what I want to do from a research perspective is what I do. And when I have a new idea and I have the funds and the time to pursue it, I can do that. In other types of science, there are more restrictions on those things, and so I like that part, that freedom that it imparts. And having to do a bit of teaching or a bit of service is, to me, a very cheap price to pay for that level of freedom.
Okay, good. So you're on the other side now. What are the words of wisdom that you would give graduate students as they're sort of looking for their next job or their next role? What kind of advice?
I think it doesn't really matter what the next job is going to be. There are a few things that you have to do to get it, whether it's industry or academia or policy, whatever it is you want to do. And the things that are kind of in common are, of course, to do really good research, publish high-impact papers, to show independence, so having your own funding or doing things that establish your ideas as driving the research. That's critical. And then the last one is, it's going to sound like I'm spouting a platitude, but it's just the truth, and that's just to be nice. Be nice to the other people in your lab, be nice to your mentor, be nice to the undergrads who come work for you, be nice to the people who come to sell stuff in your lab. People find out. And when I'm on a faculty search committee or when I'm looking for a postdoc, I look at their CV, and that matters. But what I really care about is what other people say about them, the people they worked with, the people that know them. I want to know that this is a team player, this is somebody who's really nice. So having that sort of a reputation is really critical. So my best advice would be to work really hard and be really nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.